Hi, I'm Jo Huey, and today I'm doing A to Z on alcoholism and the impact of alcohol misuse on families, and today it's D for denial. So what is denial? So in the context of families of alcoholics and living with somebody that's a drinker, it's that we're denying something. We're not... when we haven't got our eyes wide open, in a sense. Although sometimes that comes later, but initially we're very much in denial with what's going on, the environment, the behaviours, that kind of thing. So for some examples, family members are often in denial about the fact that there's even a problem, because I think often people think that if I admit that there's a problem, then that's going to make this a reality, and then that's going to cause me a whole lot of issues that I don't know if I can cope with, deal with, and so on. Which connects nicely with the model that I've put together in terms of personal change that we go through. And very often we're stuck at the point of, we have this resistance, and before we get to the point of surrender, we keep going round and around and around in this staying stuck cycle, and we don't move forward. So I suppose some other examples are things like you just act normal, you act like there's not a problem, everything, you go to work, you go to school, you carry on in your relationship like there isn't a problem, but you know there is. And to admit that for some people is really difficult, and because it's so complicated living with an addict, and the thought of it bringing even more chaos, it's better to bury your head in the sand and just keep going, and it will get better, won't it? They'll stop, they'll change, they'll realise how much damage they're doing, and they'll stop, or they'll realise how they're not being a good dad or a good mum or a good brother, sister, whatever, and then that will make them change. Or maybe they will reach rock bottom, and or they'll do something really bad, and then that will make them stop. Well, it might, but it might not. And you can't live your life, on that basis. Obviously, for some people that's very difficult, children particularly. But we live in this denial that there's anything going wrong, that there is a problem. We also can personally struggle in terms of you're denying your own feelings and emotions and thoughts about the situation or whatever's going on. So you're in denial of how you feel about it. And that can be true in your relationships, with a drinker, or if you used to live with a drinker and now you're, moving on and you're an adult and you're having relationships with people, we can still find ourselves in denial of certain things that, in our behaviours, in our characteristics, and so on. So I think that families definitely compromise themselves a lot, and we people please, don't we? So we're always doing things for the drinker, we're enabling, we're stopping them from having any consequence. We want to make everything just normal, because that's what we do. We're very loyal to them to a point. Again, it depends on how long you've had to put up with it all for, and whether you're a child or an adult. So you definitely deny yourself. You deny yourself life, actually. You deny going out and doing things, enjoying yourself. Your life stops. If you're an adult, with a partner that's a drinker or whatever, your life stops. Everything focuses around them. You have to prioritise things, so you're either there for them, monitoring them, watching them, anticipating things. So I think that we are very good at compromising ourselves and denying that actually we might want a life and we might want to do something in our life. So the other thing we can do is start saying that we're okay when we're not. And again, we're not being true to ourselves, because I've heard so many people say, yeah, I'm fine, you know, and sort of push it to the back of their minds, but actually they're not okay. And again, I think it's this overwhelm, the thinking that it's going to be too much to cope with, so it's better to not deal with it at all. But in a sense, there's some parallels here between us and the drinkers, and you know, that's what they're doing. They can't cope, so they're drinking to manage their emotions and to cope with life. So, you know, all the while we're having a go at them or expecting them to change, but we're not actually doing that ourselves sometimes. So, you know, there's so much that we go through processes of denials, and we can deny in different aspects. I'm not saying that over time, once you've lived with a drinker, you're in denial about their drinking, because you will get to a point where you realise they do have a problem. So, you know, you have to take it within a context of your situation. So how can we get clarity? Because ultimately that's what we need. It's so much easier, isn't it, to give advice to somebody else that's, you know, a friend or relative or whatever, because we're not in the situation and we can see things so clearly. But when you're in it, your world's just so mixed up that you can't see the wood for the trees. So yeah, it doesn't seem to always resonate when people tell us what we need to hear, because we're not sometimes ready to hear that, or we're still in this stuck cycle where we feel like, so many people say to me, you know, like they feel like they haven't done enough, or that they'll be a bad person. If they make a decision on something, they feel like they'll be a bad person because of it. So first of all, we need to get in touch with ourselves. So you need to get in touch with yourself and be really honest about how you feel in the situation that you're in, and take some time to be objective if that's possible. Even if you visualise yourself seeing yourself, alternatively you can imagine it's a friend that's in that situation, and then what advice would you give them? That's quite a common technique. But you can also, you know, visualise yourself and watch what's going on, and just notice your life, notice the situation, and see how that resonates with you and what advice you might give. Also, I think it's important to think about what it would take for you to accept what's going on within the situation you find yourself in, within this denial situation. So if you are denying that your partner has got a drinking problem, or your son or daughter or whatever, friend, what's the purpose of that, and what's making you not accept it? Maybe you don't want to believe that person's capable of that, you know, being addicted to a drink. Maybe, you know, there's disappointment, shame, all sorts of things, guilt. What is it for you? What's stopping you from accepting what is? Is your inability to accept the situation because you don't know how you're going to cope, and it's going to make it all more real? So explore those things. Look at yourself, look at your, see if you can visualise your situation, get some clarity around what's going on. What are you giving up? What are you missing out on? What are you spending most of your time doing that's related to this situation? You know, if you're, if you find that you're denying yourself a life, what are you doing instead? You know, are you spending all your time worrying about a drinker, whether you live with them or not? Get that clarity, and then obviously look at what's stopping you from accepting it. So denial's a massive issue, and it can affect your life in so many ways. And as the child of an alcoholic myself, I think I had a lot of denial about my own characteristics, my own misgivings, my own shortfalls, or however you want to say it. And it wasn't until I became an adult that I started doing self-development that I noticed those things. So just because you're not living with an alcoholic now, maybe, does not mean to say that it's not having an impact on your life. You know, if you grew up in that environment, you're used to probably denying your feelings and boxing them up. Are you still doing that as an adult? Check in with yourself. You probably don't even know that you're doing it sometimes because it's such a habit, and you don't know that you're denying your emotions. Some of the people I speak to, they think they're really good at saying how they feel, but actually they're not. They're really good at acting out and talking a lot, but actually they don't say, when you say that, it makes me feel really upset, or I feel really disappointed, or I actually don't feel very valued when you don't turn up on time. That takes a little bit of work to get to that point. So it's just really for you to reflect on your own situation, whether you're still living with a drinker now or not. What are you denying in your life? So I hope you found this helpful, and subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you catch up on all the other videos that I'm going to be doing on this A to Z of alcohol misuse, and I'll speak to you soon.